Oh yeah, the schedule's out. Let's go. What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mason, where I talk about hockey and more specifically the NHL. Well, it's finally here. It's playoff season, baby. The regular season ended Saturday night, and while many teams secured a ticket to the dance, there were a few teams who didn't know what seed they had or if they were even going. For instance, the Columbus Blue Jackets. On Friday, the Blue Jackets needed a win of any kind to secure their spot in the playoffs thanks to Montreal's loss. With 2 games left on the schedule, the Blue Jackets stood a very good chance to get in. The Rangers took an early lead going into the second period, and it wasn't until the third period where the Blue Jackets finally got on the board. The Blue Jackets eventually took the lead late in the third. The Rangers pulled their goalie for the extra man, and they got it. With only 7 seconds left in the game, the Blue Jackets had the games in their hand and the playoffs in sight. The look on Tortorella's face was priceless. At this point, the Blue Jackets just needed a point to clinch a playoff spot, so an overtime win or a shutout win would do it. Well, the game wasn't settled in overtime, and eventually it went to a shootout. So, going to the shootout, I have to imagine Bobrovsky's feeling pretty confident. Thanks to a goal by Panarin, the game was in Bob's hands. Last shooter up for the Rangers was Anthony DeAngelo, and the tying goal was on a stick, but thanks to Bob, he made the save, and the Blue Jackets eventually clinched their spot in the playoffs. So, there you have it. Welcome to the playoffs, Blue Jackets. Now, in order to clinch the #1 wild card in the East, they needed the Carolina Hurricanes to lose their game to Philly, and the Blue Jackets would need a win against the Senators. Well, both of them won, so no one leapfrogged anybody, and pretty much the matches were set. Blue Jackets knew who they would meet in the first round, and they are set to play, just a little team known down in Florida as the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay is rolling into the playoffs as one of the best teams in the history of the NHL at a crazy record of 62, 16, and 4, gaining them 128 points on the season and the President's Trophy. Their record this season tied the 95-96 Detroit Red Wings, who I guess they had a couple good players on their roster. I'm not 100% sure. On March 8th, Tampa Bay clinched their spot in the playoffs, having only played 68 games. And with some help from the Anaheim Ducks beating the Montreal Canadiens 8-2, puts them in second place for fastest team to clinch a playoff spot in fewest games played. Now they sit behind the 09-10 Washington Capitals, who did it in 67 games. Once Tampa clinched, they really didn't take their foot off the gas. Tampa continued to keep rolling, going 11-13 to finish out the year. You know, what's scary about this team is it looks effortless. I don't have time, and I'm sure I can't keep your attention enough to go through the whole season in a video, but the way they've been playing this year, it just felt like the wheels were going to fall off at some point. If history's taught us anything, it's that teams that get hot early, they usually kind of fizzle out and aren't so hot heading into the playoffs. Well, this team certainly hasn't. At least up until this point, they haven't. What is also a shocker is this team is pretty damn healthy. There are some injuries, but for the most part, this team is one of, if not the most healthiest team going into the playoffs. The scary part about this team is the lineup, and holy shit, talk about a great team. If you look up and down their roster, you'll be hard to find a weak point. They have not one, not two, but 3 40-plus goal scorers. Nikita Kucherov with 41, Steven Stamkos with 45, and Braden Point with 41. Oh, and Nikita Kucherov? Yeah, he only leads the league with 128 points and is most likely going to win the MVP. And we haven't even talked about their goaltending. This is Andrei Vasilevskiy's stats for the season. 39 wins, 10 losses, 128 goals against with a .925 save percentage. This guy will for sure be up for the Vezina this year with those numbers and the team in front of him. Oh, and his backup Louis Domingue, he's also been playing great when he's been in games. With a record of 21-5 and a .908 save percentage, most of the shine for the goaltending on this team will most likely go to Vasilevskiy, but Domingue has had a great season. Poor backup. Unfortunately, going into the playoffs, Domingue is battling some type of lower body injury. It's unknown if Domingue will be ready for the playoffs, but if Vasilevskiy can stay healthy and the team continues to roll, there shouldn't be a rush to get Domingue back. Now let's talk about the Blue Jackets. Coming into this year, I think it's fair to say that everyone had expectations for this team. With the early success they found in last year's playoffs, I mean, they were playing pretty well up until the Capitals finally turned it on, and, well, you know what happened. They eventually lost and got kicked out. Well, this year they started going 6-5 in the first month of the season, and following it up, going 9-5 the following month, bringing them to a 15-10 record just after the first quarter of the season. things got real when the trade deadline approached. The Blue Jackets pulled out all the stops, acquiring Matt Duchene and Ryan Dzingel from the Ottawa Senators, Keith Kincaid from the Devils, and Adam McQuaid from the Rangers. Those guys joined a lineup that already had Seth Jones, Panarin, Cam Atkinson, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Zach Werenski, Nick Foligno. This team on paper looks terrifying, but good on paper doesn't really translate to the ice. After the trade deadline, this team went 9-5 and barely got into the playoffs. What's crazy about this team is they gave up pretty much everything to build it. This team is basically going all in on this season with the hopes of having their superstar players back next year. If, and I mean if, they go on a run in the playoffs. If not, players like Matt Duchene, Sergei Bobrovsky, Artemi Panarin could be out of there. Panarin has already hinted that he's leaving by holding off any extension talks until after the season. And who knows if Bobrovsky is going to be worth the money I'm sure he's going to be asking for. If, and I mean if, they can't get out of the first round, why would they pay him? I've highlighted some of these players to watch in this series because if they want to get paid next season, this is the perfect stage and the perfect opponent to show what it is they're worth. But there has been some upside to this team. Before falling to the Bruins on April 2nd, this team was on a 6-game winning streak, going 7-1 in their last of 8. So maybe this team finally put it together. I mean, with the lineup, they should be a team to not really overlook, but then again, they have to play the Lightning in the first round, so who knows. So if they're going to make it to the second round, it feels like to me they're going to have to empty the tank on this round and to get over the hump, and hopefully those guys in the locker room can gas it up for round 2. Overall, I do have hope for the Blue Jackets, but it's the smallest amount of hope I can really fathom. They have to beat one of the best teams in the league's history just to make it out of the first round, facing the league's MVP and most likely the Vezina winner. It won't be an easy road to round 2, but if depth is what they need, they have it. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications. I'll be dropping content like this throughout the remainder of the playoffs and throughout the following season.